And today we're going to go right back to our original roots of just talking about sports with our wide receiver rankings for the upcoming 2024-2025 NFL season. And this is sort of going to be a mix of where I think they are right now and where I think they can finish at the end of the season. There's not real much structure regarding that. And I feel like we should use this, and we're going to use this visual tier list to sort of help put these guys. So, first we have the S tier, the best of the best. And below that, we have elite, high end receiver ones, low end receiver ones, borderline receiver ones. Then just the standalone receiver twos, receiver threes, good potential, but maybe not there yet. And then just depth tiers, the depth tier. And there's gonna be some guys I'm not quite familiar with their names, just based on pictures. So I'll probably just end up putting those guys in the depth tier anyway. Don't get too mad at me if I don't know your favorite receiver's name by face. So I think, first of all, starting with the S tier, I think there's two obvious S tier receivers that everyone would agree with, and that is Tyreek Hill and Justin Jefferson. Again, I'm not going to rank the players within the tiers. That's the whole point of the tiers. Um, so I think these guys are the two best receivers in football, and I don't think many people would disagree. And there's not much to really talk about. They're both great, obviously. Then moving on to the elite tier. I think the first guy in the elite tier that I can see is CeeDee Lamb. I think he could potentially end up statistically the best receiver next season. Who knows if obviously he'll actually do that, or and I'm not basically speaking on talent here. I just think based on stats alone, I think he could be the best receiver in football next year. Another elite receiver. I'm trying to find these guys. I think is AJ Brown. I think AJ Brown's another elite receiver in that top five discussion. I think it's obvious he's top five, but you have to have the discussion regardless. So I think he's up there as an elite receiver. I still think Stephon Diggs is an elite receiver. You can talk about the performance in the playoffs. I still think he's an elite receiver, one of the best route runners. So I think he's right there. Any other elite receivers I can trying to see here? I think I'm gonna leave it at that for now. I think actually, you know what? I'll put I'll put Jamar Chase in elite. Jamar Chase, I think, is an elite receiver. He had a bit of a down year, but mainly has to do with Joe Burrow's injury. So with Joe Burrow back, hopefully healthy for a full season, I think Jamar Chase will go. He didn't have a bad year. He just didn't have, maybe a top five season. But I think he can easily go back to that if Burrow is healthy. And I think that's it for my elite receivers. So I might change it obviously later on, but I'm gonna move into the high end receiver one. So these guys are almost elite, but either they just aren't quite there, or in my opinion, because I like to give a guy, I like to have a guy prove it for a little more. So maybe they had an elite season last year, but they've only had one elite season, and I obviously have full faith they can do it again. But I just want to temper my expectations. Not really temper. I just want to wait, just give them another year. And I think an example of that is Amon-Ra St. Brown. He obviously had that incredible season last year, but I want to keep him at high end receiver one. Obviously, he got paid a massive extension, well deserved as well. But I'm gonna keep him at that high end receiver one for now, with easily being able to go to elite next season. And you know who I'm gonna put? I don't know where to put Davante Adams. You know what? I still think Davante Adams is elite. I know he's getting old, but his quarterback play has not been good. Who knows if it will be good this year? But he's still just talent-wise, one of the best receivers in football. And despite his older age, another high-end receiver, I'm gonna go Amari Cooper. When he had Joe Flacco towards the end of his season, Amari Cooper was playing amazing football. He had that one game, can't remember exactly, where he might have had 200 yards, 3 or 4 touchdowns, whatever it was. An elite route runner. I think Amari Cooper is one of the best. And in that tier, another guy, I think DK Metcalf is in that high-end receiver 1 tier as well. Just consistently great receiver. Another guy, speaking of consistent, Mike Evans is a high-end receiver 1 in my opinion. Yet to have a season under 1,000 yards, which when you consider the quarterbacks, because he only had Tom Brady for, 3 seasons? Is that how long it was? So to have that many 1,000-yard seasons with the constant change at quarterback, the inconsistent quarterback play he's had, it just goes to show. But now he's got a good quarterback again in Baker Mayfield. Another high-end receiver 1, I still think Cooper Kupp is a high-end receiver 1. I know he had that injury, and it wasn't his best season, but he's still not that far away from his Triple Crown season. So I still think you got to put him in that high-end receiver 1. But I also think his teammate, who outperformed him last year as a rookie, Puka Nacua, is also a high-end receiver 1 as well. So for the Rams to have both these guys is just insane. So I think, let me just quickly look here. I think I'm going to leave that for now as my high-end receiver 1. Actually, no, I got to throw DJ Moore in there as well. Now, who knows what type of season? I'll actually throw in Keenan too. Who knows what type of seasons these two guys are going to have in Chicago, because they're playing. I know, Caleb Williams is great, but he is still a rookie, so they're playing with. It's not so much that Caleb Williams is going to be bad because he's a rookie. He's just never played, and he's got to get used to these guys, so it might take a little bit. Just playing with new receivers in general. And you don't know. I personally don't know who's going to have the better season. So I like keeping them both in that high-end receiver 1. Keenan, I know he's up there in age, but he's still elite route runner. And DJ Moore is just it's kind of hard to describe what the type of receiver Moore is. He's just a playmaker, great after the catch. Good, really good route runner. Obviously not elite by any means, but once he gets the ball, he's one of the best in the league. And I'm gonna leave that as my high-end receiver 1 tier. And I'll go to the low-end receiver 1. First name I see is Jalen Waddle. A little bit of an underwhelming season last year from Jalen Waddle, but he's still young, and I still think he's really good. Another guy who's behind an elite receiver, T. Higgins. Who knows what team he's going to play on? All the contract talks going on with him. He wants to get paid a lot. Now, I don't know quite what he's worth, because obviously he's really good, but I don't know how much he's worth on a Cincinnati team that paid, obviously, Burrow. Chase is obviously going to get paid. So it's kind of hard to know how much he's worth on the Bengals compared to other teams, but he's still really good regardless of that. Another low-end receiver 1, I'm going to say DeAndre Hopkins. Didn't have the best season, but he's still DeAndre Hopkins in my opinion, and he's still really good. He hasn't quite held up like maybe Evans, Keenan, or Amari Cooper, or Diggs, or Adams, but he's still really good, despite the slight regression he may have taken. Another low-end receiver 1, I think, is Devonta Smith. This could be low, having him 2 tiers below Metcalf, But I don't know. I'm still not that I'm not sold on Devonta Smith. I know I'm not ranking these guys, but I do think he's better than the other the wide receiver twos here, like Waddle and T. Higgins. Like, I think Devonta Smith is better than Higgins and Waddle, but I don't know if I'm ready to say he's better than Amon-Ra, Cooper, Metcalf, Mike Evans. Maybe you can make an argument for Cooper, Kupp, Nakua, Keenan, and more, but I like where the tier that Smith's at. Another low end receiver one I think is Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin I still think is really good. Him and Mike Evans have been consistently really good for so long. Another guy I think may shock some people. I think George Pickens. Now, I don't think right now he's a low end receiver one, but I do think he can finish there at the end of this season. If Russell Wilson can play consistently good football for a whole season, I don't see why not, or why George Pickens won't be a really good receiver at the end of the season, statistically speaking. Another guy is Garrett Wilson, low end receiver one. You can say his numbers haven't been great, but you can also just simply look at the quarterbacks who has thrown him the ball, and that'll pretty much tell you everything you need to know. Hopefully, with a full season of Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson can take that next step and maybe even end up as a high-end receiver one after this season. But for now, I'm putting him at low-end receiver one, despite it necessarily not really being his fault. I'm looking to see if I can find any other guys here. For now, I'm going to leave that tier alone and move on to the borderline receiver ones. So these guys they could be a receiver one on your team, but you would probably only prefer them being a receiver one if you had another guy that is a borderline receiver one, or an elite quarterback and a great tight end like the Chiefs. The Chiefs can get away with having their best receiver be a borderline receiver one because they have Mahomes, Kelce, and a good defense. But a team like the Giants, who maybe don't have that, that's the first team I can think of. There's obviously plenty of teams, Commanders, Panthers, Patriots, whatever. They maybe can't afford that. So that's kind of how I'm going at that. These are the guys that in certain situations could be receiver one, but not in all of them. First name I see is Diontae Johnson. I think he's a borderline receiver one because, like, in the Panthers, the team he's going to, I think that's a great situation because they need separation, obviously, and he can help Bryce Young. But I wouldn't necessarily want him to be a receiver one in every situation. So I'm going to put him there for now. I think Zay Flowers at the current moment is a borderline receiver one, with obviously potential to be much higher than that. Nico Collins, I think, is a borderline receiver one. I could move him to, I'll put Nico at, just because the season he had, I'll put Nico Collins at low end receiver one. But I will put his teammate Tank Dell at borderline receiver one. A lot of young players will go here as well. I think Courtland Sutton is a borderline receiver one. I think Michael Pittman, Rashee Rice is a borderline receiver one. Chris Olave is a low end receiver one. He's kind of similar to, I know Ohio State, but he's kind of similar to Garrett Wilson. Hasn't had the best quarterback play, but still really good. I think Calvin Ridley, I think is a low end receiver one as well. I know it was a disappointing season last year in Jacksonville, but I think he'll pick up and have a much better season. I think, who else? Oh, Brandon Ayuk. I forgot about Ayuk and Samuel. Where should I put these guys? I think they're both high end. No. I think Debo's a low end receiver one, and I think Ayuk's a high end receiver one, mainly for the route running that Ayuk provides. Because as a wide receiver, Debo's not the best receiver, but as a football player, he's obviously incredible. So I'm going to put Debo at the low end receiver one. Actually, no, I'll put him. Considering he's such a good overall athlete, I'll put him at high end receiver one. Hollywood Brown, I'm going to put him at borderline receiver one. Even though I think he'll have a great season in Kansas City. I'm going to put Adam Thielen as a borderline receiver one. Actually, no, I'll put him down at receiver two. Tyler Lockett, I think, is a borderline receiver one. He is old, but he's still a very reliable receiver. Drake London, I think, is a borderline receiver one. I'll save the rookies for last. Just in case you're wondering why they're not getting ranked here. I think Jerry Jeudy is still a borderline receiver one. You know, Adam Thielen had such a good season, I'm going to put him at borderline receiver one. Maybe a little biased, but even at his age, he still had an amazing season. Gabe Davis, I'll put Gabe Davis at borderline receiver one. And we'll move on to receiver twos. I think Christian Kirk's a receiver two. I think Odell Beckham, Tyler Boyd are receiver twos. I think Michael Thomas is a receiver two. Yeah, I'm not going to... Jordan Addison. I'm going to put Jordan Addison at... I'll put him at borderline receiver one. These are like... You know, I'll change the name. These are wide receiver two, wide receiver one potential, and I'll move Thielen down to wide receiver two. That way I feel better about having... Because Addison, he's a receiver two now, but he definitely has receiver one potential. Okay. Mike Williams, I think, is a receiver two. Brandon Cooks, I think, is a receiver two. Terry McLaurin. I forgot about Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin is still really good. I think Terry McLaurin's a low-end receiver one. I think Christian Watson's a receiver two. I think Romeo Doubs is a receiver two. I think Rashad Bateman's in that category. Is that... Which one's... Oh, Kendrick Bourne, I think, is a receiver too. Who else? Darnell Mooney, I think, is a quality, solid receiver too. Yeah, these are the guys that, if you have a guy like Jefferson, you're okay with Addison. Last year, the Bengals had Chase and Higgins, so you're okay with Boyd being a receiver three. The Panthers probably didn't want Thielen to be receiver two, but now with Johnson, they're probably okay with that. Curtis Samuel is good behind McLaurin. So that's kind of this tier, the receiver two tier. They're just solid receiver twos. They don't necessarily have that receiver one potential. You know, I think Watson and Dobbs do. Don't know about anyone else. But they're just solid quality receiver twos. I think we'll move on from there. Michael Gallup, I think, actually is a receiver too. Jalen Hyatt, I'm going to put him in good potential. I might just go in order now. Claypool is just depth. Braxton Berrios is a receiver 3. Allen Robinson, I'll put him at receiver 3. Elijah Moore, receiver 3. Treylon Burks, he can just go in good potential. John Mechie, good potential. Sky Moore, depth. MVS, receiver 3. McCole Hardman. On the Chiefs, he's obviously, I think, much better because they know how to use him. But he didn't really do too much on the Jets. I don't even know if he really played on the Jets. I'll put him at receiver 3. DJ Chark, receiver 3. Mingo, just depth. Jahan Dotson, or potential. Jahan Dotson. Is that Jahan Dotson? No. I think this is Jahan Dotson. Potential. I might not rank all these guys because I'm not too familiar. Marvin Mims, just potential. Jameson Williams. I'll put Jameson Williams at receiver 2, kind of with like Reed and Watson. Kadarius Toney is just depth. Mac Hollins, thinks receiver 3. Hunter Renfrow is receiver 3. Jacoby Myers. Is that KJ Osborne? Rashid Shaheed's solid. Alan Lazard, I think, is depth. Josh Reynolds or Craig Reynolds, I'm not sure. I think that's Josh Reynolds. I'm going to put him at depth. I'll make this depth slash. Can't type. Slash don't know. Not Juju, I think, is a receiver 3 still. Zay Jones, receiver 3. That's not Jawan Jennings. I think is that Jawan Johnson? I like him. Jaden Reed, I think, is good potential. Robert Woods is a receiver 3. Is that like Irwin? I think I like him. Receiver 3. I think that's Josh Downs. I'll put him in potential for now. The whole Quentin Johnson, I still believe you can't say it still doesn't have potential. Is that Josh Palmer, I think? Receiver 3. Is this Greg Dortch? I kind of like Dortch. I'll put him at receiver 3. I'm not sure if I'm too familiar with any of these guys. So I'll probably just not rank them, actually. I probably should. Oh, I think that's Alec Pierce. I think he's still in that good potential tier. I can't quite figure out. Oh, is this Rondell Moore? I think that's Rondell Moore. Receiver 3, I think, for Rondell Moore. Okay. So now let's do the rookies. So this I don't personally like to do this because they're just rookies. But I'm a kind of project here. So first, Brian Thomas. The Jags picked him up. I think Brian Thomas will end up being a wide receiver 2 for the Jags. Keon Coleman, I think, can. Keon Coleman, I'll put him in that same tier. I think Leggett can go there. Adunze, I'll put him in like kind of Jordan. I think he'll have a similar rookie season to Jordan Addison. I think these guys will be similar to Dobbs and Watson. Xavier Worthy, I think, will be similar to that. Marvin Harrison. I think Marvin Harrison will have a similar rookie season to. I think he'll be low end receiver one. I think Malik Neighbors will be similar to Odunze. I think Lad McConkey will go there, and I'll put Pearsall there. I think he'll have a similar rookie season to. I'll just put him there for now. And I think that's it for my receiver rankings. S tier, the two best, Jefferson and Hill consensus. Then we have elite receivers, CD, Brown, Diggs, Chase, Adams. High-end receiver ones, Amon-Ra, Cooper, Metcalf, Mike Evans, Cooper, Kupp, Nakua, Keenan, Moore, Ayuk, and Debo. Then we have the low-end receiver ones, Devonta Smith, Waddle, Higgins, Hopkins, Godwin, Pickens, Garrett Wilson, Nico, Olave, Ridley, McLaurin, and potentially Marvin Harrison. Then the wide receiver twos with wide receiver one potential, a lot of young guys are just, and then the proven veterans like Johnson, Sutton, Lockett, and Judy and Davis. Then the wide receiver twos with most of the rookies, because I think that's just the type of rookie season they'll have. Similar to Jameson Williams. Similar to the starter careers of Watson, Williams, and Dobbs. And then we have the wide receiver threes, the younger guys who necessarily haven't proven their potential, but still, I believe, have good potential. And then the depth players as well. I'll just get rid of it. I don't know. And that will conclude my 2024-25 NFL rankings for this upcoming season. Let me know what you guys disagree with and agree with in the comment section. I want to know your guys' opinions in the comments so we can discuss sports together. And let me know, also in the comments, let me know what potential videos you want to see as we get ready for the NFL season. It's getting around there. It's getting around the corner of the NFL season. And obviously we'll have plenty of stuff to talk about once that happens. But before then, we got to make sure we get content out. So let me know what you want to see. And also, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell as well. And like the video as well. It's good for the channel, the more of you who like the video. And that will be it for me. Peace.